This is INOVA 201 training. INOVA helps us in the district to have clear goals with numbers and names and implementing specific interventions, all while having a great attitude. The purpose of this presentation, or the objective of this presentation, is to understand and be able to explain components of the needs assessments profiles, how to best use the categorical level performance analysis in order to best assist our students, how to read and interpret the relative performance analysis section in order to better serve our students, and how to use the scenarios and archetypes to determine the best interventions for our students. You will want to print one of your student profiles to have in front of you as you view this presentation. You can see a profile by going to INOVA, Reports, Profile Generator, then selecting a star option if you're a 4th or 5th grade teacher, or the early math reading option if you're a kinder through 3rd grade teacher. There are 5 possible areas in a student profile. 4th and 5th grade student profiles contain all of the 5, whereas kinder through 5th grade reports contain only general student information, current and historical performance indicators, and relative performance analysis. This is because the information for categorical level performance analysis and progress measure information is pulled directly from STAR data. This is what a profile looks like. The grade level at the top shows where the student was last year. This means that kindergarten teachers will see pre-kinder or pre-kindergarten written at the top. First, we'll see kinder written at the top, and second, we'll see first written at the top, and so on and so forth. The data for current kinder through 3rd grade students is pulled from the universal screeners and has both math and reading on one report, whereas the data for 4th and 5th graders is pulled from STAR and is obtainable through 2 different reports, one for math and one for reading. As a reminder, kinder through 3rd grade reports will consist only of the general info section, the current and historical performance indicators section, and the relative performance analysis section. Please note, before moving on, that you might not be able to see data for some students if the student is brand new to our district, has changed languages in their testing, or a student took a modified exam, or a student went from taking a modified exam to a regular exam, or vice versa. The first part shows student general data, which is self-explanatory. It is important to note that some profiles will have the word alert on them. This tells you 2 things. There's an instructional problem. In other words, the student needs instructional support and that there is learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is a condition in which a person suffers from a sense of powerlessness arising from a traumatic event or persistent failure to succeed. This alert lets the teacher know that students would benefit from more than one instructional support. Also, there might be some reports that say enhance in part of the title. This applies to current 4th grade reports. If you see enhance, that means that the report includes 2nd and 3rd grade universal screener information as well as 3rd grade STAR data. The current and historical performance indicators show the raw score for the previous year's STAR administration. For kinder through 3rd grades, it shows the CPAA scale scores. On current 4th and 5th graders, it will also show if the student achieved the satisfactory level on STAR. The kinder through 3rd grade profiles do not have this area. You will also see a graph of the scores, whether CPAA for kinder through 3rd or STAR for 4th and 5th. Lastly, for this section, you will see the student's color and if there were tail left, slight tail left, centered, tail right, or slight tail right. It will also list what the student's scenario was last year. More to come on the scenarios. Moving on to the categorical level performance analysis section, which is really a great section and tool. The reporting categories, whether for reading or for math, as in this example, give you the highest skill for that specific child. It is important to note that these are not necessarily areas that the student has mastered, but the highest areas that the student has mastered. These give This gives you a great insight into whether students have an opportunity to be successful, of where students have an opportunity to be successful. Teachers and interventionists can use this information to determine how to best give students a shot to be successful. Both teachers and interventionists should begin instruction in the strike zones. Within the strike zones, you would want to differentiate. For example, if working on reporting category 2 with this student, where he scored a 66.7%, you would probably want to play games and pull activities at his or her level. However, if working with this student on measurement, for example, where the student scored at 37.5%, you would want to pull activities and games that start at a lower level in order for the student to be successful, and then move your way up. Please note that students that don't have anything listed under strike zones indicate that the student is performing low in all reporting categories. If this is the case, you would want to start interventions within the power standards. That is, those standards that carry the most weight. Aberrant categories show how the students performed in relationship to the rest of the campus. If the student has aberrant categories listed, these would be areas where you would want to reteach them in a different way. Like the general information, this section is self-explanatory. It shows whether a student met progress measure and whether they're on track to meet progress measure this year. Even though it was determined in August that we will be in phase 1 more year, we should always aim for students to meet standard at the final or recommended standard. The relative performance analysis provides you with great information to help your students. The left section gives you information on what color the child is. As a reminder, the colors tell you the colors tell you the odds of how likely the student is to perform satisfactory or pass this year. The colors range from green as most likely to pass to red as not likely to pass. These colors, however, are without interventions and everything we are doing for our kiddos, so get ready to change those odds. So going back to the student, he or she is probably not going to pass. The second thing to look at is where the student fits, or where they are in the curve. This particular student is a center student. In reviewing, we know that because this student is a center student, that he or she gained what he or she should have gained. It is important to note that the shading on the reports will always show up as red. That doesn't mean that all your students are red. So be sure to look at the color listed below the image for the actual color, and then at the curve to see how they've been progressing. Remember when I said I would be coming back to this part? Within the profile, you will want to look at where the student was last year in comparison to this year. This student was a yellow-centered and remained as a yellow-centered student. Focusing on the last 3 bullets, the right side of the relative performance analysis section tells you what the recommendation is for this specific child. Because this child fits the characteristics of scenario 18, he is an archetype 7, along with students in scenario 23. And what are scenarios and archetypes? In order to clearly understand these, let's quickly review what we have previously learned from INOVA 101. From the INOVA 101 training, we know that there are 5 colors when looking at students' likelihood of passing. We have green, blue, gray, yellow, and red. These directly correlate to index 1. Then we know that students that are far tail left had significant growth. Students that are far tail left had significant negative growth. Students that are tail left had some negative growth. Students that are centered, statistically speaking, gained what they should have. Students that are tail right gained more than predicted. And students that are far tail right had significant positive growth. If we put the colors and the tails on a matrix, we get a matrix with 25 different boxes. We will call each of these boxes scenarios. Students that are green, that are far tail left, will be students in scenario 1. Students that are green and are tail left will make up our scenario 2 kids. Green kids that are centered will be our scenario 3 students. Green tail rights will be 4. Green far tail right students will be our scenario 5 kids. And so on and so forth with the different scenarios. You are able to run a report that shows how many students you have in each scenario. In order to do this, you will need to log into your INOVA, then click on the Value Added tab on the left side and run the report. Your report will look something like this. This particular teacher has 0 students in scenario 1, 0 in scenario 2, 13 in scenario 3, and you get the idea. Clicking on each of the numbers that are hyperlinked on your actual INOVA will give you the students that fall on that particular scenario. Each specific scenario guides you to exactly what each child needs. For example, we know that students that are likely and most likely to pass and that have shown positive progress, positive growth, will simply need regular instruction, while students that are not likely to pass and have shown negative growth will need instructional as well as psychosocial support, such as structured intervention support, specialized mentored, and home visits. Having said that, let's look at what the best interventions would be for students. This is a graph that can be obtained from INOVA by clicking on the Intervention tab, then on the Scenario grid. All scenarios are important, but for purpose of this presentation, we'll review the first 10 scenarios. For legibility purposes, I will use a scanned copy of a document that has the same information that is contained here. Looking at this sheet, do you see some scenarios that would benefit from the same intervention? Of course. We see, for example, that scenario number 3 has the same intervention as the students in scenario number 4, as well as the students in scenario number 7 and scenario number 8. Scenarios that fall within about the same area of need are grouped together and called archetypes. Because these students fall within about the same need, scenarios 3, 4, 7, and 8 come together to form archetype 0. Do you notice other scenarios that can be grouped according to the interventions? Of course. You have scenario 1, scenario 2, and scenario 6 that all together will form students into archetype 1. Then we also see that scenario 5, 9, and 10 are grouped together to form archetype 3. Within all 25 scenarios, there are a total of 7 bundles of scenarios, or 7 archetypes. As just reviewed, archetype A0, or archetype 0, it's the short for it is A0, is composed of scenarios 3, 4, 7, and 8. These students are already passing and progressing, so the primary response to those is simply regular instruction. Then we have A1 students. These are students that would probably benefit from like a robotics program after school. Then you have A2 students that are in scenarios 5, 9, and 10. These kids need lots of recognitions. Have the students review their progress report and motivational goals with their parents. They're likely to pass, but regression to the mean is working against us. Those in archetype 3 are a priority for mentoring. Gray and yellow need psychosocial support, but they also need instructional support. This is a child that you would want in your after-school lab right next to them and telling them not to click C on all the answers. A4 are probably the students that you can trust. They can log into iStation from home. You want to continue the motivation of whatever they did last year because it worked. They need encouragement and praise, but they have grit. And we move along on the golden groups. A5 group, those are that's the archetype that might be hard to mentor. Consider the kindergarten teachers that served that child when they were in kindergarten. Most kids love their kindergarten teacher. Some of these just need organizational techniques. Students in Archetypes 6, they're outperforming, but they're not likely to pass. Regression to the mean is hurting them. Small group with targeted instruction is what will be right for them. Seeing all the students carefully and their data, read-write might also be a good intervention for these in the area of reading. A7 is the group that needs to go through the RTI process. We have to figure out what is working with them. Nothing that we have done before has worked, so we must be very deliberate with interventions. We cannot do 10 interventions with a student. We must be very specific and do it with fidelity for at least 21 days. That's what research states that you must do intervention for in order to make a difference. So having reviewed this information, and now that we have a clearer picture, we see that this student is in scenario 18 and his archetype is A7 or archetype 7. Please keep in mind that students can be in one archetype in reading and a different one in math. So, being a scenario 18 student, which is also grouped with scenario 23 to form archetype 7, we see that this student is an RTI SSP priority, and that there are two great resources available in your school, the PRIM or Pre-Referral Intervention Manual and the RTI for Diverse Learners books that could serve as resources to guide the SSP committee to find the best way to assist these students. Keep in mind, again, that for these group of students, we have to figure out what is going to work. Nothing that we have done before has worked, so we must be very deliberate with interventions. We cannot do 10 interventions with a student. We must be very specific and do it with fidelity. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact your administrator or one of your INOVA leadership team members who would be happy to assist you. Thank you.